washing my brain with the candlelight. Losing my breath, losing myself, dreams are out of sight. Stop struggling against my demons. Stop taking life as fiction. Let it burn, burn, burn. Burn the pain, burn the lies, burn the fear inside myself, and burn it all again. It's the right time to escape this cage I've been locked in for so long. It's not where I belong. Let it burn, burn, burn into the ground.
This is Rick, and this is Burn After Reading. Let me tell you right now, I've been beyond pissed for a very long time. I'm not mincing words, and if my unfiltered opinion is going to bruise your delicate sensibilities, then maybe you should just click off now. You've been warned. Now let's get this goddamn show on the road. Barbara McDonald sucks. Bob Ruff sucks. Stephanie Harlowe sucks. Bob Motta sucks. And this one might come as a surprise to some of you, but Gray Hughes sucks. Honestly, save for a rare few, about, I don't know, maybe 90% of the true crime podcasters and YouTubers, they're all fucking terrible. The journalists, the ex-cops, the former firefighters, the retired FBI profilers, and the lawyers from both the state and defense perspectives, and the ones too lazy to go out and get a real job wading into this genre are mostly the same, and they all suck. Why? Because true crime, and it's been this way for a while, is nothing more than a cash cow. Millions being made off the backs of tragedy, fueled by endless content and bizarre fan conventions where people sport Ted Bundy tees like it's a band concert, and then also have really weird ones like socks. These creators and commentators, despite their lip service, they have prioritized fame and fortune over the victims and their families. Brand size directly correlates to their bottom line. In other words, the vast majority of true crime content creators are failing this genre. The financial incentive also warps the perception of truth in criminal cases, prioritizing popular narratives over factual accuracy. It's about maintaining a favorable storyline. The truth becomes irrelevant. If claiming someone's innocence despite overwhelming evidence to the contrary translates to more views, super chats, or Patreon subscribers, that's the narrative they'll peddle. Wallets first. Their attempts to justify this by claiming charitable donations are equally hollow. They're donating our money, acting as unnecessary brokers. We can do that shit on our own. We don't need their help. Ultimately, this entire system preys on human suffering for their own benefit. The genre's relentless hunger for gore and sensationalism strips victims of their humanity, reduces their families to background figures, and transforms profound trauma into a grotesque form of entertainment. This monetization has spawned a toxic ecosystem where hordes of armchair detectives and amateur sleuths descend upon cases, often with reckless speculation and utter disregard. The pervasive lack of nuance and essential context in many true crime narratives actively spreads misinformation and entrenches harmful stereotypes. Take the Kylie Rodney case as a prime example. A young woman tragically got drunk and drove into a reservoir, leading to her drowning. Yet a staggering number of dipshits amplified a false narrative of foul play, both before and after her body was found. It was as if they wanted a sinister explanation. They wanted to will it into existence. Fuck the facts. They want something exciting. They relentlessly targeted her boyfriend, who was completely and utterly uninvolved. Even the autopsy, which definitively ruled out foul play, didn't silence the morons. Idiots like Sleuthy Goosey continue to insist on foul play, questioning expert findings with her baseless opinions. This individual, consistently wrong in cases like Richard Allen and Brian Koberger, spews research as absurd as her heavily filtered and made up appearance. But her most repulsive act? Fabricating an exaggerated story about her son's abduction. Who does that? She did it in an attempt to inject herself with families who had genuinely experienced that horror, when the reality was a domestic dispute involving the child's father. While still a problem, it's a sickening distortion of true abduction. And speaking of child killer Richard Allen, the relentless push to declare this man innocent is baffling. Barbara McDonald and Bob Motta, I'm looking directly at you. The fact that McDonald holds a journalism award only underscores the worthlessness of such accolades. And if I ever face criminal charges, Bob Motta will be the last person I'd hire. I'd soon trust Anthony Greeno because despite our lack of personal warmth, even he possesses the basic common sense to recognize Richard Allen murdered Abby and Libby. In my estimation, Motta is a subpar attorney whose relevance likely hinges on exploiting taped interviews with John Wayne Gacy inherited from his father. Would anyone know his name otherwise? McDonald and Motta were in court privy to all the evidence in the Richard Allen trial. Their continued insistence on Allen's innocence points to either sheer stupidity, blatant bias, or a clear understanding of where their financial interests lie. Cold, hard cash. And then there's idiots like Rick Snay and the Prof, but they're just walking, talking parodies. Perpetual losers in the YouTube sphere. I'll let life take them down. Now, let's pivot to Gray Hughes. I was going to say I have friends, but I should actually say true crime allies, because honestly, who's really your friends these days? Am I right? And they like him, and they're friends with him, and they can do whatever they want. But I have a different perception of that walking, talking asshole. A major shout out to the channel YouTube Bad Actors for truly exposing what a reprehensible individual this talking anus is. While I once respected Gray Hughes' research, his blatant entitlement to money is something I find utterly disgusting, and I didn't know how bad it was. I deeply regret ever holding this huckster in any good regard. Unlike some of his seemingly endless free time audience, I don't have 3 to 4 hours daily to watch his ludicrous live streams, complete with dancing tacos for every donation and random Chewbacca appearances. Nor do I have the patience for his manipulative virtual jail stunts, his tearful food stamp threats, all designed to guilt trip his viewers into opening their wallets to him. But even that pales in comparison to my biggest gripe with Gray Hughes. His initial take on the murder-suicide of YouTube creator the Captain Howdy and his ex-girlfriend. Whether Gray Hughes backtracked on this or not, his initial decision to label the Captain Howdy's girlfriend a monster is unforgivable, and he can go straight to hell for it. In those remarks, he let me know who he truly is as a human being. It doesn't matter that he now acknowledges the Captain Howdy as a manipulative liar, because it's about the initial belief and the sympathetic nature for Howdy that he wasn't a monster, and if he was, then apparently so was his girlfriend, because she did this or she did that, she cheated on him, she tried to keep the child away from him. No, that's not an excuse, all right? And no pun intended, there's no gray area here. So Gray Hughes could take his hubris, shitty attitude, and dancing tacos and stick them straight up his red roaring ass or mouth, because they likely look the same. Shifting gears to the Maura Murray disappearance case. The recent revelation about Stephen Baldwin is certainly generating buzz, isn't it? Baldwin, who attended West Point with Maura, reportedly had his fingerprint found inside her car, specifically, if I'm understanding correctly, on a CD. This development surfaced while following Baldwin's conviction for animal cruelty, fraud, and bribery. And the story was broken by author and journalist James Renner. Now, let me be unequivocally clear. I am not defending Stephen Baldwin. He sounds like a reprehensible individual. However, while his fingerprint discovery is intriguing, I remain deeply skeptical. I feel like people are jumping to conclusions with this information. Many believe, and I tend to agree, that Renner has exploited an already captivating and perplexing case for his own personal gain, injecting endless speculation, assumptions, and irrelevant gossip about Maura and the people around her, or who were around her. People like, well, her boyfriend at the time, or Fred Murray, and what have you. He even disregarded the wishes of Maura's father, Fred Murray, by publishing a book on the case. Why? Because Fred felt Renner was all he was trying to do is create characters for a screenplay. My very first episode on this channel, in fact, featured a review of that book. But let's get back to Stephen. While the Baldwin fingerprint is a new detail, a new detail to us, I should say, it doesn't establish a direct link to Maura's disappearance, as far as we know. If it did, wouldn't we have an arrest? So, what does this mean? There's no sufficient evidence to charge Stephen for the disappearance of Maura Murray, or else it would have already happened. Until law enforcement or Maura's family confirms Baldwin's involvement and a charge is made, I won't be jumping on the Stephen Baldwin did it bandwagon. If charges are filed, I'll follow the trial and the legal proceedings very closely. But we're not there yet, are we? And we may never be. For now, I refuse to be swayed by Renner's history of conjecture and disconnected facts. This shit has been going on for over a decade, and Renner is like the stain on a white wall that you just can't wash away. He caters to the lowest common denominator of thinkers, and if you'd like to read a critical article about James Renner, I highly recommend the one published by The New Yorker. And let us not forget the special breed of idiots obsessed with proclaiming convicted criminals innocent. We've already discussed the mental gymnastics of Bob Motta and Barbara McDonald on the Richard Allen case, but the circus continues with individuals like Sideshow Bob Ruff. He fancies himself a criminal detective mastermind, somehow outsmarting the law enforcement agencies and state attorneys who secured factual convictions against killers like Adnan Syed and the West Memphis Three. The irony is almost slapstick, far funnier than his actual stand-up comedy, because nothing complements the gravity of true crime quite like an unqualified buffoon attempting humor at Obsessed Fest. It's a truly tone-deaf performance. Sadly, none of us will be able to heckle him at his next performance because there doesn't seem to be a next one, at least the last I checked. Damn, I guess I'll have to waste my money on more meaningful things. Just a thought though, Bob Ruff, if you ever happen to listen to this. Investigative integrity. Interviewing a convicted child killer, that's one thing. Breaking bread or pizza with him at his home, that's less investigation and more questionable life choices. Add Rabia Chaudhry, or whatever the fuck her last name is, and Ellen Marsh to the list. They solve cases like a politician keeps promises. They went so far out there with their innocence push that they think Scott Peterson is innocent. Honestly, if the next hot take from them or anyone else in true crime is hot garbage like, but was Ted Bundy actually a misunderstood softie who maybe just had a few bad days? I'm throwing my headphones into the fucking abyss. And sadly, if you thought we were finished with true crime personalities and their bullshit innocence podcasts, Nope, sadly, there's a feast of these, and one by a Pulitzer Prize journalist, Maggie Freeling. The Murder in Alliance saga perfectly illustrates the often reckless world of true crime podcasts. Maggie Freeling of the Obsessed Network, known for her alleged wrongful conviction advocacy on Unjust and Unsolved, dived into the 1996 Yvonne Lane murder in Alliance, Ohio, where David Thorne was convicted. Teaming up with convicted child killer Jason Baldwin's Proclaim Justice, the initial narrative heavily implied Thorne's innocence. But surprise! They then backpedaled. They had to. They had no choice, concluding Thorne was likely guilty. And let that sink in. They partnered up with a convicted child killer to support a convicted killer. Isn't responsible true crime podcasting about, getting the facts straight before broadcasting? I mean, this might be excusable in some cases, but Lane's murder, it was a closed book. They had all the information. All they had to do was look at it. Maggie Freeling's podcast risked immense harm to Lane's family, smeared the victim, and undermined the original investigation, all seemingly for the sake of timely content. Proclaim Justice's admission that the podcast's timing dictated their approach speaks volumes. And it speaks volumes about their priorities. Let's not forget the 25,000 donations meant to exonerate Thorne, which landed in the laps of Maggie Freeling and Proclaim Justice. This debacle should cast a dark shadow on Maggie Freeling's other wrongful conviction cases. Her sympathetic, unjust, and unsolved episode on Thorne preceded his swift downfall under scrutiny, suggesting a pattern of questionable analysis. Good journalism requires critical evaluation of all claims, and a flippant oops doesn't erase the potential damage. But bless your heart, Pulitzer Prize Maggie Butt Fiesta Freeling, and anyone who gets the Butt Fiesta reference, God bless you. Your journalistic prowess in this case is about as impressive as those questionable ink choices you'll be rocking at the ripe old age of Medicare eligibility. But hey, at least you can take cute pictures with a convicted child killer, am I right? Actually, a couple of them. Am I right? And then you have the truly pathetic individuals, the Turtle Boys and the Glarers of the world, simping over the likes of Karen Reed. Let's be clear. She killed her boyfriend, Boston police officer John O'Keefe. While the legal distinction between murder and manslaughter remains, anyone with a semblance of analytical ability knows that woman is guilty. If she walks free, it's another sickening miscarriage of justice in the vein of O.J. Simpson and Casey Anthony. And to the simps, newsflash, she's not going to date you. So perform a stop it. But hey, at least you can monetize your pathetic obsession by dissecting her case. You sorry excuses for human beings. You disgust me. And Glare, especially you. At one time, I actually thought you possessed some moral fiber. But then I heard about your history of assaulting a woman and abusing your son. Your ethical bankruptcy comes as no surprise. And then there's restless bitch-face Stephanie Harlowe. It's truly a marvel how she and the ethically challenged crime junkie can be exposed for blatant plagiarism, offer a square root of zero in terms of remorse, and yet continue their reign of mediocrity. The secret? A fan base comprised of critical thinking deficit sheep who will happily consume any narrative presented to them. Harlowe, with her simping sidekick, managed to produce an analysis of the West Memphis 3 case so breathtakingly wrong it could curdle milk, and it took them an astronomical amount of episodes to do it. And let's not mistake her research. She clearly opts for the Cliff Notes version via books and documentaries and summaries rather than, reading the actual damn case files and court transcripts, while in between, her and her co-host wax anecdotal and play their stupid ad placements. The core question, as always, is about the Benjamins. Which narrative generates more clicks and cash? While they're all too happy to pronounce Adnan Syed guilty and claiming consequences be damned, the West Memphis 3 case, well, that's a different story, isn't it? That's a far bigger pond with more lucrative fish. If Harlo even thought that prioritizing truth over trending opinions would impact her precious bottom line, she'd flip her stance faster than a pancake. Let's not, please don't even get me started on the personal fallout from her true crime obsession, particularly the mess it made with her family life, especially with her husband, who is no longer with us. And that's about as far as I'll go on that subject. In conclusion, I know I've been pretty mean, but I'm tired. I'm tired of the direction this has taken. But exhaustion doesn't diminish the urgency of this moment. How did we let true crime devolve into entertainment? How did we stumble into a reality where killers gain sympathy and victims face blame? This should make your blood boil. It certainly makes my blood boil. From the Truth and Justice podcast to the Prosecutor's podcast, the name doesn't matter. We have a serious crisis in this genre. But here's the thing that should shake them to their very bones. We, the audience, possess the power to redefine what true crime consumption looks like. We must champion the creators who bravely prioritize actual justice and truth over the easy lure of cash. Information can be captivating, but the sensationalism has gone too far. We cannot wait for change. We must demand it. We don't need to know the Murray family personally to feel their enduring pain. We don't need a personal connection to any victim or their families to understand their suffering. Empathy is our inherent strength. The time for passive listening is over. As consumers, we must take a long, hard look at what we think we know. It's time to become active researchers. If you're going to get into this, I think that is crucial. To seek out the truth ourselves. And to withhold judgment until we have the full picture. Engage with the True Crime Podcast. Go ahead and do that, yes, but with a critical eye. Scrutinize their claims. Don't be swayed by a catchy phrase or a charismatic host. I refuse to accept the current state of true crime. We must force a change. We must demand truth and accountability from these creators, whether they like it or not. And let's start right here with you and me. Every time they peddle misinformation or grift for money, we will be the unified voice that calls them out, that turns off their toxic narratives. We have the power. This won't change overnight. I know that. I'm not stupid. But our collective strength is far greater than they want us to believe. And so I say, let's unleash it and let's burn it down. Burn this bullshit down to the ground. And let's build it up to what it should be. True crime is about tragic stories where we put our empathy towards the victims and their families. That is where it should be. We should look at all the information and be very analytical and look at everything until we understand and we know the truth. Now, I understand people are going to have different perspectives on it, and that part I can't change, but let's try. Let's try to get to the right same conclusion, because there is only one when it comes to these cases. It's this simple. The West Memphis 3, they're either innocent or they're guilty. Let's truly look into that. And let's not care what Bob Ruff has to say about it. Fuck, let's not worry about what I have to say about it. Look at it yourself. You can go, if you go to Google and you type in West Memphis 3 Callahan, it will take you to most of the information, the case files, the court transcripts, the appeals. And if you want to see more, go down to the West Memphis Police Department. Set an appointment. You can look at more things. And not just with the West Memphis 3 case. Do your best to research and look into the Richard Allen case. Truly look into it. Don't be conspiracy theorist nut jobs. Truly look at the information. Because I tell you, the people who claim that they are and are trying to proclaim this guy innocent, they're not living in the world of reality. You see, Richard Allen is either innocent or he's guilty. There is no in between here. So it is up to you to truly dig deep and dive into this. And let's really, really consider the victims' families. Because God forbid if you are ever placed in that situation. I hope you never do. Or I hope you never are. I really don't. But this true crime entertainment, there's consequences. They're not the ones who are paying for it. It's always the ones who care the most who pay for it. The victims' families, those who were close to them, whether they were husbands, boyfriends, best friends, those are the people who pay for it. And for those who may be asking, well, what makes me different? I don't do this for money. I do this for awareness. So if someone says, well, you're just trying to get clicks. Well, the reason why I want to get clicks is because I do truly want the truth to get out there. And I guess if that makes me a bad person, so be it. I don't think it does. And for those who may be thinking, well, you're just a self-righteous prick, well, you could think what you want on that too. Perhaps I am. Perhaps I hold this to a high, high standard. And I will continue to hold it to a high standard. Because this stuff matters. You know, we're not talking about entertainment like Netflix's Stranger Things or You. We're not talking about HBO's The Last of Us or The Mighty Gemstones. We're talking about real, true cases where people's lives have been lost. And I will continue to hold that sacred. And if people want to think of me as self-righteous, well, again, I don't care, and you can kiss my rosy red ass. Anyways, I think I rambled on long enough. For those who stayed from beginning to end, thank you. I hope you see it for what it is. I hope you see the truth in it. For those who don't, or perhaps left early because, well, maybe you thought that I was being a meanie, well, so be it. Do what you want. And for any of the creators or whoever that this pertains to, those who I mentioned in here, if you don't like what I have to say, I don't care what you think. Because do you truly care? Because I don't think that you do. Anyways, like I said, it's time to stop the rant. I'm Rick. This is Burn After Reading. I'll catch your ass down the road.
Burn the lies, burn the fear inside myself, and burn it all again. To right time to waste.